And go. And we're getting ready to do one of these questions. It says f of x. Does anybody know what f of x, what type of notation that's called? That's right. So if you would please, on your papers, just write, that's just called function notation. All right? Function notation. So you got this function right here. I got to get out of the way from some of my kids because my head's blocking their view. There we go. All right, there's your function. All right. Does anybody know what the value of x we're going to use to plug in right there? That's right, 16. See where it says f of 16? That simply means that's your x value. So literally, all you have to do is do 1/3, open parentheses, do 4 minus 16, close it, and square it. All right. So if you have a calculator, you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and not do it with the calculator, but you guys can do it in the calculator and check my work. 4 minus 16 is -12. -12 squared is 144, because a negative times a negative is a positive. If you don't use parentheses, you will get this problem wrong. And then we have to take 1/3 of 144. And what is 144 divided by 3? What'd you guys get? All right. That goes into it 4 times. All right. 3 goes in 24 8 times. And yes, the answer is 48. Now, if you had a graphing calculator, you could just do 1 divided by 3, open parentheses, 4 minus a 16, close it, and square it just like that. And that's how you would do it in your calculator. All right? So that's how you would do it in your calculator. This is how you would do it by hand, but that's your answer. That's what you would bubble in. And you're done. See how easy that is? Just remember, that's function notation. So whatever number is right there, that's the number that you plug in for what value. You take that number and you plug it in right there for the x. And that gives you, remember, f of x just means your y value. All right, that gives you your y value. All right, moving on. Hopefully that made sense. All right, so right now it says the graph below shows a linear relationship. So please put highlight linear. All right, between the maximum area in square feet that can be painted and the number of gallons of paint. All right, so we're just going to make a little table here. All right, make a little table. When you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you go to buy paint, if you buy 0 gallons of paint, how much area can you paint? 0. There we go. See, there's 0, 0 right there. All right, oh, right here. If you buy 1 gallon of paint, how much area can you paint? 400. I'm going to stop. I could keep going if I wanted to. Like 2 goes with what? 800. So what's the change in y? What's my change in y? 400. What's my change in x? 1. What is the slope? Remember, guys, see where it says rate of change right here? Can you put a little rate of change and put a little arrow and say that always means slope? When it's asking you for the rate of change, it's asking you for the slope. That's how you know what you're looking for. If it asks you for rate of change, it's looking for the slope. So the m value is always the change in the y over the change in the x. We talked about these little delta symbols. That means change in. So the change in y is 400. The change in x is 1. So the answer is simply just 400. And that's why the answer is just answer choice C, which was 400 feet squared per gallon. Which is, honestly, if you've ever painted a room and you ever look at the paint cans, sometimes it says about 435 square feet per gallon. So you didn't really need to know math on this one. They actually estimated the correct amount of square footage per gallons that you get in real life. So, all right, guys, this is something we actually have done together in the Khan Academy. All right, solved by taking the what? Anybody know? Yeah, this is solving by taking the square root. We've actually done a lot of these. All right, so if we have this and we want to take the square root, we just take the square root of this side, we take the square root of this side, and we have x plus 7 equals plus or minus 9. All right, and then you simply just subtract 7 from this side and subtract 7 from this side. So x equals 9 minus 7, 9 minus 7, and x would also equal negative 9 minus 7. Negative 9 minus 7. Now 9 minus 7 is just 2, and negative 9 minus 7 is negative 16. So my solutions are what? 2 and negative 16. Now, some of you are like, well, how could I use Desmos? Remember, Desmos does not work with when you type. Could you type that into Desmos? Yes. Could you put the equal sign in at work? No. Could you type this into Desmos? No, it really won't help you. All right. But if you did this, there's two ways to do this. Either you type in y equals, and you put x plus 7 squared, and then you put y equals 81. That's one way you could do it into Desmos, and I'll show you both ways. And the other way is this. You could take x plus 7 squared. See how we have an 81 on this side? If I moved it across the equal sign, what happens to that 81? Right, it becomes negative. So you could set it up like this in Desmos. If you took away, now if you're like, what the heck did you mean? I don't know what you mean by this little arrow. Okay, so literally what I did was I took away 81 from one side and I took away 81 from the other side of what? Of the equal sign right here. So I'm going to type this in. I want you guys to see what I did there. Okay, so we're going to type it in. So you can write this down as I'm typing this in if you want to. Parentheses. Was it x plus 7? Or was it x minus 7? X plus 7 squared. Watch. Minus an 81. And I'm going to zoom out. And what are our two zeros? Negative 16 and a positive 2. But you can't type it in this way. You can't say equals 81. See how it doesn't work? But I could do that. Well, because that's one of the functionalities that they're taking. It just makes it too easy. But I could put y equals 81, and then I have to zoom all the way up. And what's that one at? Negative 16. And what's this one at? Oh, right there, right there. 2. And so you could type it in this way, where you set both of these to y equals. So you could say y equals this and y equals this, just like when you guys set it up for your solving for x equations, where you set both of them. But it won't work. Watch this. It won't work if you just type in an 81. Watch. What does it have to be? Y equals, and then you can find your two zeros. Personally, I think this is easier. If you're gonna use Desmos, that's easier. But what do you have to know? You have to know that you cannot set it equal. You got to move it across to make it negative. So what's our answer? Answer choice J, right there. Okay. Moving on down. I'm going to highlight one word and one word only. Which word do you think I'm going to highlight in question number 23? Go ahead. That's it. Highlight domain. And please put X. So I'm going to, right now, we're going to take a look at our domain. All right. So could you guys make a little arrow going from here to there, right there. Make an arrow and label that. This is your X. This is your domain of the graph. Now, they could easily ask you about the what? The range. So could you guys go from here to here and label that? Label this the range of the graph. Now, we're going to find the domain and the range, okay? So the domain goes from right here to right there. So we're going from what? -1 all the way to a 3, which is the only one that has an x between a 3 and a -1. That's it. That's the only one. Now, here's the thing. Do you guys remember like open? If it's open, then what do you have to take away? You'd have to take away that little equal to sign. Okay, so you got to be careful if it's closed or open. Now, before you move on, let's look at the range. How high does it get? Right here. How high up? 27. So it's all the way out of 27. How low do you think it gets? I'm going to say 5.3. Why am I going to say 5.3? Because this right here, guys, that's not the answer. But that represents the range. A represents the domain. D represents the range. The other two answers are the not even worthy of looking at answers. Okay? I won't call them the stupid answers because I'm not sure if it's going to be. I don't want to call that. That'd be awful. I don't want people to feel stupid. But These right here, these mean nothing, okay? But that is the range, and that is the domain, okay? So our answer was A. All right, guys, this one was kind of tricky because you have a table and you have what? Line Q and line V. All right. Now I'm going to kind of show you guys what you guys could do in Desmos. But honestly, you just have to. There's only one concept you really need to know. So could you guys put AX plus BY equals C? This is the shortcut. This is the shortcut to this problem. AX plus BY equals C is your standard form. And standard form always helps you find your X-intercept and your Y-intercept. X-intercept is C over A, and the Y-intercept is C over B. And this is the fastest way of doing this problem without having to do a whole bunch of complicated math, okay? So if you would please, I need you to highlight two different areas. Right here, this right here is our X-intercept. Put X, sorry about that. That's our X-intercept. This right here is a Y-intercept. So what are we looking for? We're looking for one line that has an X-intercept at -9, and the other line will have a Y-intercept at n 8. Okay? So check this out. Let's cover this up. What's my for answer choice F, what's my Y-intercept right there? Anybody want to guess what the Y-intercept is? What does that say? -y equals 9. So my Y-intercept would be at -9. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. Guys, ready? This right here, my X-intercept, let's put my X-intercept, is at 9 over 21. And my Y-intercept is at -9. So 9 divided by 21 is 9 over 21. 9 divided by -1 is -9. Does any of these match that scenario? Does any right now do you see a Y-intercept at a -9? No. Okay. So what's my on this one? What's my X-intercept? What's 40 divided by 5? 8. My X-intercept's at in 8. What's my Y-intercept at? 40 divided by 6, which is 20 over 3. All right, it's not going to work. So guys, I want you guys to understand why answer choice G is the correct answer. All right, so if you guys would please put on your papers 3x minus y equals -27, and then I'm going to change the other line to x plus 2y equals 16. Because I did not do a lot of work here, okay? So to find this, it's like, well, I'm just going to find my x-intercept and my y-intercept. So I'm just going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept for both of these. And this will be the only work that we show. Okay? So Jeremiah, right here, right? -27 divided by 3. This we're going to say -27 divided by -1. Remember, we're doing ax plus by equals c. This is c over a. This is c over b, if you're wondering how I'm getting these numbers. Okay? What is -27 divided by 3? -9. Boom. Okay? Over here, this is a positive 27. What's my c value for this one? 16 over 1. So my x-intercept is at a 16. Which is equal to n. Remember what I said we had to find a y-intercept at an 8, and we had to find an x-intercept what? That's the only ones that matched without having, and I just did that, I mean, I just looked at it, I scanned it in my head. C over A and C over B. So that works there. I don't have to change anything to slope-intercept form, okay? So that's why answer choice G is the correct answer. You got to know C over A and C over B. All right, so I'm not trying to overwhelm everybody. I realize that it seems for some of you that might seem like a lot, but would you guys agree that these ordered pairs have to work into some of these equations? I'm just trying to find you the easiest way to find the correct ordered pairs. So what's the easiest one to always understand? The x-intercept and the y-intercept, okay? That's what you need to be looking for. Those are the easiest ones, all right? All right, guys, you're like, what in the world is this word causation? We talked about it briefly. We had like an assignment over cause and effect. So could you guys put cause and effect, all right? Not affect, like it affects you like your feelings, but like cause and effect. If it rains, what's going to happen to the grass in the morning? It's going to be wet, okay? All right? If you go a day without water, you're going to feel thirsty. Okay, if you go 5 days without food, you're going to feel hungry, right? Like it's a cause and effect relationship. So when the student population at a school increases, all right, the student population increases, do you think they hire more teachers at the school to reduce the class size per teacher? Would that be a cause and effect relationship? Like if a school, not where we're going to school, but like a public school, if you have more students, you're going to have to hire more teachers. Okay, so that's pretty much a cause and effect relationship. It could be, all right? When the amount of sugar in a quart of apple juice is reduced, so the sugar is what? Reduced. Do you think there's going to be fewer calories in the serving if there's less sugar? More sugar, the more calories. The less sugar, the less calories. That's a cause and effect relationship. When there are more workers on a project, now this is if and only if they all are working. So we're assuming that when you hire more workers, they all work. It's not that you hire more workers and that means 2 people are working and all the rest of the guys or girls are just hanging out doing nothing, okay? Do you think it would be completed in less time? Like if we all work together to clean this room, it would be faster than me just doing it by myself, all right? This is the one I don't believe shows causation. When there is more protein in an athlete's diet, it's always going to equate for more points in a game. That does not show causation. All of these are considered to be reasonable. This one, more protein, does not mean more points. I'm going to put does not equal. Like more protein does not equal. That's a not equal to sign. It's not a very good not equal to sign. All right, this is a better. That's not better. There. That's a better not equal to sign. Okay? So that's all you're looking for on that. Just look for if it says which one does not, find the one that looks the stupidest. Okay? Like, what? And trust me, you guys argue with each other all the time about things that you agree with or don't agree with. That would be not a valid opinion. All right, so guys, it says which function is what? Equivalent. Okay? We're looking for an equivalent function. And so we have f of x equals -4 parentheses x plus 7 close parentheses squared minus 6. And one of these is going to match this equation. All right? Now, do you guys remember PEMDAS? All right, PEMDAS. So what would I have to do before I did anything? What would be the very first thing I would have to take care of? All right, so can I add anything inside the parentheses? No. Then I have to go to Exponent, so I got to square that. Well, how in the world am I supposed to square that? So here's what I want you to do. Can you guys make a little box with me? Right here. All right, just cut it into, oh, that's not very good. Do one more. Yeah, cut it into 4 pieces. There we go. Just like that. Okay. All right, we're going to put an X. There we go. And a 7, and an X, and a 7. All right. What's X times X? X squared. What's X times 7? 7X. X times 7 is 7X. 7 times 7 is 49. What are our two like terms? The 7X and 7X. So here's what I want you to write. Put -4 parentheses X squared plus 14X plus 49 minus 6. All right. Now, the fast way of doing it is here's the fast way. 7 plus 7 is 14. 7 times 7 is 49, and that'll be the pattern. You take these two numbers, add them together, it's the middle one. You take these numbers, multiply them together, it's the last one. That's the shortcut. Okay? All right, so let's distribute. We get -4x squared minus 56x. And then we got -4 times 49. -4 times 49. That gets me all the way to -196. And then we have to take away 6 more. So I think you guys can see our final answer choice. Put an X right there. Everybody see our final answer choice? You're like, golly, that's a lot of math. Well, you know what you could do? Just type it in Desmos. That really, honestly, this is what they want you to know how to do. All right, but this is what you could do. And I gotta pause the video. All right, I need to delete this. What was our original equation? It was f of x. I'm just going to put y equals because it means the same thing. Go ahead. -4 x plus 7 squared minus 6. So everybody see that graph right there? Okay. Now, our final answer was y equals -4x squared. Was it minus 56x minus 202? Does everybody see, just by typing in your answer choices, you can find the one that actually matches it. So here's one of the wrong answers. What I think it was 172. I think that was one of our wrong answer choices right there. There's the same. Everything's the same except for what? Minus 172. Does everybody see how those don't match? So you have to find the one that matches. All right. That's about as easy as it gets. That's why using Desmos makes it very, very easy to be able to find the matching graph. Well, why did you do all of this? Because this is the stuff that you need to know how to do, and we're going to practice to the end of the year, practice doing more of it. Okay? All right. Moving on. All right. Can you guys right now type this into Desmos right here? Just type that into Desmos. Okay? Y equals -1.5x plus 60. All right? So I'll go ahead and do that. Y equals -1.5x plus 60. There's the Y-intercept. There's the X-intercept. All right, so you have that graph. It's typed into Desmos, so you see that right there. Now I'm going to read it. It says, a paper airplane was thrown from the top of a building. Okay, so there's your paper airplane, okay? There's your paper airplane. It's going from it's flying all the way down. You don't have to draw the paper airplane. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to draw the paper airplane. All right. Now, it says where x is the what? X is the time that it's in the air. How many seconds did it take for the paper airplane to reach what? Reach the ground. Can you guys put right here, like, just draw, except make it better. Like on the x-axis right there. That's considered to be the ground. So that's the ground, everybody. Now I realize x is time. X is time. Like this represents the time right here. But if we look at our graph, would you agree it hit the ground right there? That's when the height is 0. How many seconds did it take it to hit the ground? 40. That's why your answer was 40. If the question said, what was the height of the paper airplane at the top of the building? What would be the height of the paper airplane at the top of the building? It started at 60 and it went to 0. Okay? So the answer to this one, guys, was how many seconds? 40 seconds. There we go. Now, what did they expect you to know how to do? This is what they expected you to know how to do. You guys ready? Just solve for x. They're saying that's equal, y is equal to 0. We move 1.5x across to the other side and divide both sides by 1.5. And when you divide both sides by 1.5, x equals 40. That's how you would solve for x without having to type it into Desmos. You want to make your ground equal to what height? You got to make your ground equal to 0. Okay? So not complicated. Just got to know what you're looking for. Oh, here we go. Finally. Something that's new that you haven't seen before. All right? So here's what I want you guys to do. On your paper, put q to the power of 4 to the power of negative 3 over q to the power of negative 15. Now, we have two things that are happening here. The first thing we're going to talk about is what's called the power property. And the power property states when you have any variable to a certain power raised to another power, you're allowed to multiply those together. M times n. So what is 4 times negative 3? So could you guys right now say this is equal to, all right, what do we do with those? We take those and multiply those together and we get what? We get negative. So put q to the power of negative 12 over q to the power of negative 15. Oh man, I'm trying to pause the video because I have a student sleeping, or it looks like they're sleeping. I'm trying to pause it, but I can't. Could you just nudge the person and make sure that they're like the hood's off and they're awake? Thanks, appreciate it. Perfect. Okay. All right. So right now, the next thing we need to talk about is what's called the quotient property. All right. So this is the power property. The quotient property states this: if you have a variable raised to another power, and you have the same variable, the same base, you're allowed to take those exponents and subtract them. You're allowed to subtract the exponents. Okay. So let's apply what's called the quotient property. So we have q to the power of negative 12, and I'm going to take away what number? I'm going to take away a negative 15. So put minus a negative 15. So how would you do that in the calculator? It's very easy. Just go to your calculator, type in a negative 12 minus, open parentheses, negative 15, close parentheses, and you get 3. So this just becomes q to the power of 3, and that's your answer. Now, there's a faster way that I do this, okay? But I need you guys to understand how to make a negative exponent positive. Do you guys know what happens when you move numbers across, let's say, the equal sign? If I said like negative x equals negative 5, and I swap places, I move this across, what happens? That becomes a positive x, and what does this become? A positive 5, so just x equals 5. Now, similarly, when you're dealing with exponents, if you move exponents above or below the fraction bar, they become positive. So watch this. If I have x to the negative 12 over x to the negative 15, I want you to understand that's the same as saying x to the power of positive 15 over x to the power of 12. These mean the same thing. If you want to make a negative exponent positive, just shift it up. Or If you want to make a negative exponent positive, just shift it down. All right? Now, what's 15 minus 12? Without having to do a whole bunch of complicated math. This rule will always be the case. So what's the rule? Check this out. If I have a over b to the power of -1, if that's multiplied by -1, that's the same thing as saying b over a. All right, so if you want to just move it up or move these up or down, it's super, super easy. Here's a great example for you to have on your paper to help you remind yourself. If you want to make a negative exponent positive, move it up or down depending on where it is. Up or down over what? The division bar. Okay? Just like we move stuff across equal signs when we're solving for x. Now, on this problem, could you use Desmos? Yes, if and only if you change the letter Q to x. So if I put parentheses, x to the power of, what was it? X to the power of 4, okay? And then I close it, and then, I close it, and I raise that to the power of -3, okay? And then down below is what? X to the power of -15. Okay, you guys see that right there? And then if I type in my answer choice, x to the power of 3, does everybody see how these match? But it only works if you do it in terms of what? In terms of x. You can't do it in terms of q or r or s or t, all right? Or y, it's got to be in terms of x. Now this will not work if there's multiple variables. We lucked out because what? There's only one variable, x. So you'd have to know all the properties, regular properties that we just did. All right, this one's going to be super, super easy. It says which one has how many zeros? 1. Looking for the one that has what? 1, 0. How many zeros does this have? 2. How many zeros does this have? 2. How many zeros does this have? None. So put none. This is the only one that has 1. That's a gimme. All right? That's a gimme. That's like you just got to know basically what do you have to do? You have to know what a 0 means in a quadratic. It's where it touches the x-axis. If you got that one wrong, don't tell me. Okay? All right, here we go. -4x plus 10 is greater than or equal to 5x plus 55. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of complicated stuff on this one. It's just very straightforward. Okay? We got to get all the x's to one side and solve for them. That's all we got to do. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to add 4x to this side. I'm going to add 4x to this side. I'm going to get 9x. And I'm going to take away 55 from this side. And I'm going to take away 55 from this side. And I get -45. And the sign stays the same because I have not multiplied or divided by a negative. Now, I'm going to change this and see if this makes sense to you. See how this is pointing? That greater than symbol is pointing right there at the 9x. I got to keep that pointing. So now -45 is greater than or equal to 9x, but 9x is less than or equal to a -45. And then the last step is divide both sides by 9, and x is less than or equal to -5. So the answer is x is less than or equal to -5, so it's answer choice H. And that was the answer. There's no Desmos way of doing it. It's just, you got to know how to solve for x. All right? Now, you could, by the way, in Desmos, there's only one thing you could do. You could type in the left side of the equation, which is -4x plus 10, and then on the right side of the equation, it was 5x plus 55. And that would correctly solve for x. So you know you're dealing with, you could eliminate 2 of the answer choices. What's x equal to? -5. So what does that do? That eliminates 2 of your answer choices. Oh, never mind. I guess it does give you the answer. Because it's not a 5, it's not a 45, it's not a -45, it was -5. So you could type this side into Desmos and type in what? This side into Desmos and solve for x, and there's only one of them that it, so I guess you could have used Desmos on this one. All right, so the last question, all right? The last question asks us to factor this. So it's going to be the last one we do for the day, but 21 x squared plus 13x minus 20. And what we're going to do is we're going to factor it. But we have to look at the factors of 21. And the factors of 21 are 21 times 1 and 7 times 3. And the factors of 20 are 20 times 1, 10 times 2, and 5 times 4. But you can see we're only going to be using the 5 and the 4 and the 7 and the 3. Okay? So I know I'm going to be using a what? A 7x and a 3x. I just don't know if I'm using the 5 and the 4 or the 4 and the 5. Okay? So what we're going to do, we have to get positive 13x here in the middle. All right? We got to get positive 13x. So if I put a 4 here and a 5 here, let's see what happens. What's 7x times 5x? That's a total of 35x. 4 times 3x is a total of 12x. If I subtract those, does that get me to a 13? It doesn't look like that gets us to a 13, does it? Okay? So here's what I want you to do. Just go right down here. Keep the 7x. Change that to a 5. And change this to a 4. Okay? So right here, let's check this out. That's 28x. This is 15x. If I subtract those, does that get me a 13? But that means this one has to be positive and this one has to be negative in order to make it a negative 15. Now, I understand we haven't done a whole lot of factoring, so I'm not expecting you to know how to do this. So here's what I want you to do for the final thing. By the way, our answer is either this or this. So right now, which one of these is our answer? Answer choice B. Now check this out. All I want you to do right now into Desmos is to do this. Type in, help me out, what's the equation? 21x squared, then what? It was plus 13x minus 20. Okay, so you guys see that graph? Now one of our answer choices, now focus right now, I'm gonna hit home, focus on here and right there. Check this out. Our answer was 7x plus a 5, correct? Or is it a 7x minus 5? Minus 5, sorry. Check this out. Do you guys see how 7x minus 5 passes through one of the what? Yes, that's how you find it in Desmos. Whichever one passes through the X-Intercept is your answer. What was, give me one wrong answer. 3x, was it 3x plus 4? Oh, the plus 4 was the correct answer. Minus 4. See how that does not pass through the 0. And that's what you guys got to do. You got to find the factor that passes through 0. So the answer was B.